Welcome to another edition of Points of Interest, brought to you by the Lebanon Area Chamber of Commerce. And as we do each week, bring you a program of the activities going on in the Upper Valley this coming week, along with a very interesting guest. And this week being no different, we have Christian Zimmerman, who is the president of Pike Industries. We're going to be talking about roads and bridges and that type of thing, which I'm sure is a lot of interest here in the Upper Valley, where we're doing a lot of construction work at Route 120 in West Lebanon, 12A, and the area. And so Christian's going to be bringing us a lot of insights into that area of interest for a lot of you. But this particular week, going on in the Upper Valley, we have particularly this coming week on Saturday, we will be having the Christmas decoration program going on in downtown Lebanon, brought to you by the Lebanon Recreation Department. And they are going to begin on Saturday afternoon to start doing the decorations. And as I mentioned on my morning program on WNTK, a little competition going on because I toured the Newport and Claremont parks this weekend, and they're doing a great job. So we're going to have to really come out and do a bang-up job in decorating the park here in Lebanon. And bringing early in that day, we have Sarah's Dream, which is brought to you by City Center Ballet, and they're going to be having the program, a ballet from 1, 4, and 7 p.m. at the Opera House, and that, of course, is right across the street from the park, so you can come after the 1 o'clock program and join the festivities on the park, and they'd love to have you come in and help them out and do the decorating in the park. And we have other activities we have coming up. We have the first Thursday book buffet in West Lebanon, and that is this Thursday, and it's at 1 p.m. at the Kilton Public Library, and that's the new library in West Lebanon, and it's Gathering in the Family, as participants discuss novels dealing with families. And so it's a free event. Bring a picnic lunch if you want, and that's noon to 1 p.m. here in West Lebanon at the new Kilton Library. We also have this opened this last weekend over in Enfield at the Shrine, the La Salette Shrine. The lights went on, and I was hoping that we had some snow, and we did. And with the lights went on, it was just a beautiful event. You look up the hill, and the volunteers did a great job in putting the lights up, and with the snow and everything, it was a great event. They're going to be open from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Every night of the week until New Year's Eve. And so you can go up there and take advantage of the lights, and they're really, really nice. They have some special programs. They have the Santaland Diaries, and that's going to be on Saturday at the Enfield Museum. Shaker Museum is doing that particular program, and so David Sedaris is going to be directing that program, and you can go at the 7:30 p.m. at the Shaker Bridge Theater, right there at the across the street from the museum, and they do a nice job in putting that together also. We also have, and we always talk, we talked about Black Friday and Hyber site or whatever they call it on Mondays, but even here in Lebanon, we have a number of groups that are put together, different arts and crafts and such, and the local group they opened up here on Monday, and they've got all kinds of locally made items, and they're on Mechanic Street at the Powerhouse Mall. They're on Shaker at the Shaker Place there, and so they're open 7 days a week if you're looking for locally made items and such. And here at the Ava Gallery, where we're taping this program, we have their annual holiday sale and exhibition, and they opened up on November 25th through December 30th. And again, they have different artists and craftsmen who have their different little places here at the gallery, and they're wares are available for sale, and you can buy some local things. And I think it has a personal touch when you buy either a painting, a sculpture made locally by local artisans here. And then, of course, we're still run all at the Opera House. We have the Wet Paint Players. They're playing December 9th, which is next Friday, and it's an annual musical that they're doing. And then every Thursday, sponsored by the Citizens Bank, they do a home series. And this week at the December 1st at 7 p.m., free show, Valley Improv. It's a local group, and if some of you heard that group, we had them at our home show last year, and they were very popular. So it's a free program beginning at 7 p.m. at the Lebanon Opera House on December 1st. And then we have the kids are coming in with the Lebanon High School are doing their winter concert on the 13th at 7 p.m. at the Opera House. And the junior high is doing on the 15th at 7 p.m. and they're doing their concert also. So a lot of going on in the Upper Valley with not only Ava Gallery, but the Lebanon Opera House and the Shaker Museum and the lights going on there. A lot of people call the office and say what's open and what's not open in West Lebanon due to the Hurricane Irene that came through here. I would say 98% of the stores are open. Some have relocated to another location. We have basically the two largest stores, being JCPenney's and Kmart, are not open, will not be open for the Christmas season. But this past week, we cut the ribbon for Books A Million, which took over the new Borders location. We also had Kohl's that opened up. So most of the stores are open in West Lebanon, and we invite particularly those of you from Vermont to come over, as we have no sales tax in New Hampshire, and so we love to have you, the Vermont people, come in. So this last Friday, being Black Friday, we did very well. A lot of people came down from Vermont. And also we have other shopping venues here in Lebanon. We have the mall, as we call it. We have a ski shop, we have shoe stores, we have jewelry stores, and we have a lot of lunch spots that people can stop by and partake of. So we are open in Lebanon, New Hampshire, and welcome all visitors coming to shop with us. So this week we have another very interesting program. We have Christian Zimmerman, who is the president and CEO of Pike Industries, joining us. And first of all, Christian, your background, how you came to this type of work and business. And
well, thanks, Paul, for having me. I actually started in this business as a teenager in high school during summers. I started out working for Pike in 1978, and I will date myself. I was a 16-year-old. And I worked all sorts of jobs, from being a laborer. Finally, when I got into college, worked myself up into a foreman position, and then eventually became a project manager and then an area manager, and have worked my way up basically to being the president after, well, I've been the president since January 1st, 2005. So I guess it was close to 30 years, about 26 or 27 years of working my way up through to finally being asked if I would run the company, which I obviously jumped at.
So what do you go to school for to learn how to be a Pike Industry person? It's a small world. But Christian and I were talking earlier, and our backgrounds and his backgrounds, and we connected with a number of people. But how do you go to a school to become?
Well, that's a good question. I think the school you really go to in terms of getting to where I got to was basically the school of working hard and good work ethic and being there every year. As far as a college education, I'm a civil engineer. I majored in civil engineering. I graduated from UNH in 1986. I actually should have graduated in '84, but I took extra time off to work. My mother finally told me in '85 that if I didn't get back to school full-time and graduate, she was going to be very upset with me. So I did go back and finished up my civil engineering degree from UNH. And it has helped me over the years, but really what's really got to me to where I am is just working year after year and staying committed to the job and having all the things you need to have to be in the construction world, which first is being able to get up in the morning and work lots of hours, as well as deal with lots of changes and the weather and everything else you have to deal with. So, spent 25 years doing that and finally got the keys to the job.
Excellent, very good. And of course, Pike Industries has their plant here on 12A here in West Lebanon, been here for a number of years, and great asset to our community. But today we want to talk about roads, bridges. We often say is in the tourism business that, we have the second largest industry in New Hampshire other than manufacturing. And what we bring as a tourism group to the state is we bring people here who eat in the restaurants and partake in the stores and such. And so we have the business profits tax, we have the gas tax, and one of the big things is, again, the gas tax, the federal gas tax that comes back to the state. And that's, I'm sure, Christian, that you're involved in considerably. And some of the projects that you have going on, I see your trucks all over the state, so I'm sure you're, involved in that.
Yeah, well, most of highway funding comes through both a state gas tax and a federal gas tax, and some of the misconceptions about the gas tax is that it goes up when the price of gas goes up. You're paying more toward the gas tax, and that's not the case. The gas tax on the federal level is at 18.4 cents. And that has not changed since 1993. And on the state level, for the state of New Hampshire, the gas tax is 18 cents a gallon, which I believe is 6th or 7th lowest in the country. And that has not changed since 1991. But those two revenue sources probably fund about 75 to 80%.
So a lot of the projects going on in New Hampshire come back to the gas tax that come back to the state. And so how do we spend that in New Hampshire? Well,
in New Hampshire, we get back about $1 for every dollar we send into the federal government. Currently, that's 18.4 cents for every gallon of gas that's bought in New Hampshire. We send to the federal government, and they, in turn, send it back in the form of highway funding. We also fund highways through local state gas taxes, which at this time in New Hampshire is 18 cents a gallon, and that has not changed since 1991. And the federal gas tax has not changed since 1993. And those two revenue sources make up somewhere around 75 to 80% of all the money that goes into the projects for our roads and bridges. It obviously benefits not only the Upper Valley, but all of New Hampshire and all of the United States in terms of being able to fix up infrastructure, roads and bridges, and make it safer, and so people can get around and be more mobile and get to their businesses and move their goods and services.
When we had the stimulus money that came back to the state, and I noticed, particularly here being in the western part of the state, Interstate 89 was covered, I think, from the Vermont border down to the beginning with new bridges, new siding, new rails, and that type of thing. Were you involved in much of that program?
Yeah, we actually benefited significantly from the stimulus, and I should mention that the highway and bridge portion of the stimulus was about 3.5% to 4% of the total. It was not it was a large sum of money, but as compared to the total stimulus package, it was not that big of a sum. It was $27.5 billion, and for Pike Industries, it was a huge benefit. We were able to hire on over 100 people in 2009, and we were able to keep our plants running with jobs up and down 89 as well as 93 in New Hampshire. There's a lot of paving on Interstate 93 as well. So it was well spent money in terms of roads and bridges. The problem with it is that it ran out and there was no real backup plan to keep things rolling. And now we're into a new reauthorization process for the federal aid highway bill, which has been stalled in Congress for a couple of years now.
Are you involved very much with the Interstate 93 project coming in from Massachusetts into New Hampshire? I know every time you go down there, they're doing some work down there to widen Interstate 93 to head up. Is Pike Industries involved in that project?
Yes, there's going to be many projects on 93. There have been some already. Unfortunately, without funding, it's going to be a while before the rest of 93 gets built, and it is very important for the state in order to be able to get people, as you mentioned, tourists and up into New Hampshire, because right now it's a bottleneck on 93. But there's a significant amount of money that needs to be spent there, and we really don't have the money right now. We really need to raise revenues in order to be able to fund a large project like 93, unless we want to just not do anything in the rest of the state and just funnel all the money to 93, and I don't think anybody wants to see that done. So we really need to kind of find a revenue source, some additional revenue to be able to continue building 93, because right now projects are on the shelf, on hold until we can find funding.
So where do we go from here, and how do we try to entice the development of these particular projects? I mean, not only 93, but I'm sure other places in New Hampshire.
Well, I mean, the problem is, and has been for the last 10 years or so, that there has not been adequate money coming into the highway trust funds, both on the state and federal level, to support the needs. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk about what those needs are, but I think we've come to the point where everyone believes that we've pared down. The highway plan in New Hampshire has been cut in half from what it used to be. And all across the country, you know, DOTs are really working hard to make sure that what's in their plan to do over the next, you know, few years are things that really need to be done. And we still don't have enough money. So what we need to do is we need to all agree on a way to raise revenue. And obviously the easiest way to do it in the short term is the gas tax, which I hate the name of, because it really is a user fee. If you drive on the roads, you go to the gas pump, you pay for the gas, and you pay a fee for having driven on those roads so that they could be maintained. But it's very difficult when you have the word tax to get people to support it. You know, we've had registration fees, things like that can help, but really, as I said, 75 to 80% of all funding comes through the gas tax, and if we really need to increase it in order to be able to do things like 93 and keep the rest of our infrastructure up to snuff.
Now, when we talk about gas tax, we have the federal and the state. Which one is the more volatile, or the one that brings most of the dollars to the state? Is it the state one or the federal one?
Well, both of them are important. What happens is that the state has to match the federal money. So the feds give 80%. Certain projects the feds will fund 80% and the state 20%, and others the federal government will fund 90% and the state 10%. And what happens is there are ways for the state to get around funding that with hard money. They can fund it in other ways, soft matches they're called, which really don't put any more money into construction. So if you aren't keeping up with inflation and the needs in terms of the state gas tax, you might find that the state is not spending as much as they really should be to be matching the federal gas tax. So they're both, you know, equally important, but, you know, I guess I'd be saying that it's easier to probably get through a state gas tax than a federal one, but whatever we could work on would be beneficial to everybody, not just the people employed at Pike and other construction industries, but everyone who drives on the roads. Down the road, I do think that, you know, vehicle miles traveled, if you could determine how many miles vehicles travel, that's probably a better user fee tied to actual wear and tear on the roads, but that's going to take a while to get that technology so that it works right. And at this point, you know, the best way to increase revenue in the quickest way is through the gas tax.
I know we talked earlier about there's a local group called the TMA, Traffic Management Association, and we've been working with different groups in the area in doing park and rides and working with Advanced Transit, which is an excellent bus service here, free service here in the Lebanon area. But we talk about the gas tax and talking with Governor Lynch, and he's dead set against about any increase of 1/2. We even talked about half a penny. When you talk about 39.9, give us the .9, and it would be enough to develop the roads. Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel that we might go through with that?
Well, we're hoping, since he announced that he's not going to run again, that maybe we will see some light at the end of the tunnel. People have their opinions. I unfortunately think some of it, when it comes to legislators, it has to do with how they feel the public will respond to them supporting a gas tax. Nobody wants to be taxed. But I do believe that everybody wants to have good, safe roads to drive on. And if we can just make that tie and with those people that, paying more at the pump to fix your roads is a good thing. I think they all believe that, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't believe the government spends the money, wisely. I think when it comes to federal highway funding, they do a good job at it. Certainly, there's some things that could be tightened up, but they do a good job at it. But we really need to tie any increase in revenues to what we're really going to do out there to fix the roads. I think that's the way to convince people that, hey, you're willing to pay 5 cents a more gallon for every gallon, you're going to have I-93 built in 5 years. That's the way to sell people on paying more at the gas pump.
I'm very glad, though, you mentioned that, people say, well, there goes the tax again because the price of gas went up. Well, it doesn't really. You hire so much a gallon. If the gallon was, in my day, of course, I'm going to date myself, we used to drive from Hudson, New Hampshire to Manchester for 25 cents a gallon, where we could buy it for 23 back home, but, that didn't matter. But it was the same gallon of gas. So the tax is not more. You're paying the same thing for a gallon of gas.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that on the way up. I mean, I think all of us, and I'm sure all your viewers, remember back when gas was $1 a gallon, and that wasn't that long ago. I believe in 99-ish range, we paid $1 a gallon for gas. Well, in 1999, the New Hampshire state gas tax was 18 cents a gallon. That's 18%. What you were paying for a gallon of gas, 18% went into the Highway Trust Fund. Today, that's 5%, because we're paying $3.50 for a gallon of gas, and it's still 18 cents. The purchasing power of a gallon of gasoline toward highways has decreased from the 18 cents. This is on the federal level. The 18 cents it was when it was changed back in 1993, and today it only buys you 11 cents worth of new roads and fixed up roads and bridges. So it's lost whatever that is, 70% of its purchasing power because of inflation. You just can't go. I don't think people want to go 20 years without having any raise, and we can't go 20 years without having a raise in the gas tax if we want to keep up with our infrastructure needs.
Did we suffer much with the Hurricane Irene with different bridges and roads? I know we, as you know, being a border town to Vermont, really got hit considerably, but did you have much in New Hampshire as a result?
New Hampshire was nothing compared to Vermont. Vermont was a tragedy and a catastrophe. I was over there for a tour about 3 or 4 days after it happened, and it was nothing I've ever seen before. And the pictures don't do it justice. It was unbelievable what I saw. New Hampshire was nothing compared to that. We had some pretty significant road washouts on the Kankamangas Highway, as well as Route 16 going up through Pinkham Notch. And there was a couple other spots over in near Woodstock that got washed out. 302, right.
The Mount Washington Hotel.
Exactly. But obviously it was significant, and I think it really goes, if you went and talked to a Vermonter who lived somewhere off Route 4 or 107 or Route 100 and said to him, do you know what it would be like to not have a road, to lead from your house down to the store? They would say, I know, I remember. Everybody else doesn't understand that, so they kind of take their infrastructure for granted. those Vermonters over there, they don't take it for granted anymore. They realize the importance of having the roads and bridges. And unfortunately, well, I don't know if it's probably fortunate, roads don't deteriorate like they do in a flood, okay? Where overnight you don't have a road there anymore. But if you don't keep up with them, they're going to become like Vermont roads over a period of time, and then it's going to cost a lot more to fix them.
So it's very important that we keep up with our roads and bridges in New Hampshire. Well, Christian, we thank you very much for being with us today and enlightening us about the gas tax and the roads and that situation. So we've had Christian Zimmerman, who is the president of Pike Industries, which you see there, trucks running around the Upper Valley the last few years. And we thank him for being with us today. We will be back next week with another program of Points of Interest, and we'll be looking forward to have you with us again. Thank you.